What a crazy event UFC Mexico was. Um, First and foremost, I just want to mention this. There was a guy out in the crowd that was knocking people out. I don't know who this person is, but the UFC needs to do the right thing and contact this guy and sign him up for some BKFC. Now that the BKFC and the UFC seem to have a relationship together, give this guy a contract. Let him fight some of these BKFC events. Let him represent Mexico. I don't know who this person is, but that was absolutely crazy to see. I saw the video on Twitter, and I'm gonna share real quick. But yeah, crazy. Let's go ahead and mention the big stories here, ladies and gentlemen. Brian Ortega, bro. I thought with his whole ego talk, Yair Rodriguez was gonna turn this man into some freaking KFC. But in all honesty, man, I think we just figured out Yair Rodriguez kryptonite, man. This guy cannot defend takedowns at all. And Brian Ortega, a guy who hasn't fought in a long ass time, was able to just freaking outclass Yair Rodriguez when it came down to takedowns. And Yair Rodriguez was doing a bad job at defending it. Brian Ortega was doing his thing. He probably saw Tracy Cortez in the crowd and was like, "Man, I can't lose in front of this woman. Let me go ahead and perform." And Brian Ortega did his thing. Very surprised, I'll be completely honest, man, because I really wanted to see Yair Rodriguez take on Ilia Topuria because there's so much trash talking going around between those two fighters. But apparently, that fight is going to be on the sidelines, at least for now, until Yair Rodriguez gets on another win streak. But for right now, maybe Ilia Topuria might be given, maybe the easiest title defense of his career with Brian Ortega. This man freaking rolled his foot before the fight even started, right? And I'm pretty sure that a lot of people out there caught that. I know the commentators for the UFC caught that for sure because they kept on replaying it. But that was absolutely funny as hell to see Brian Ortega roll his foot literally just before the bout started. Honestly, I'm very surprised. I'm really surprised that Brian Ortega was able to submit Yair Rodriguez in round 3. I did not see that coming at all. I think I expected Yair Rodriguez to win this fight, and he almost did. He almost ended the fight in round 1, but for some crazy freaking reason, he just wasn't able to seal the deal. I mean, Yair Rodriguez landed 30 shots to Brian Ortega, and Brian Ortega did his thing and he came back. Brandon Moreno, he lost to Brandon Royval. I'm speechless on that, right? I'm speechless on that because I definitely expected Brandon Moreno to win this fight and then go ahead and take on Pantoja. Brandon Moreno looked really good in the first 2 rounds. He was giving Brandon Royval a lot of space and disengaging and picking and choosing when to enter the 50-50 and try to land big shots. In my opinion, I think Brandon Moreno definitely landed the more power shots, but Brandon Royval was just able to put out volume that Brandon Moreno was just shelling up to, and he wasn't really doing a good job of countering in between combinations, and Brandon Royval was really doing a great job at just putting all that volume on Brandon Moreno. They weren't crazy powerful shots, but there were enough to get Brandon Moreno to shell up. And I'm very surprised. Honestly, I'm very surprised. I know that the crowd in Mexico is very surprised by that. I think everybody, or the majority of people, expected Brandon Moreno to walk away with the win, but that just wasn't the case. Yeah, but a good event. Let's go ahead and talk about all these other fights in the main card. So, of course, Raul Rosas pulls out last minute against Ricky Turcios. Apparently, he got sick and ill and just didn't want to fight. But apparently, we are going to see this fight sometime next week at the next UFC event. So, we're definitely going to go ahead and cover that fight. I have a buddy who's being coached by Ricky Turcios. So, obviously, we were pulling for Ricky Turcios to perform in this fight. But yeah, it just wasn't able to happen. Unfortunate, but we will definitely see it hopefully next week. Manuel Torres, this guy gets a round 1 submission against Chris Duncan. Apparently this dude has 14 round 1 finishes. It's about time this guy gets a step up in competition. He called out Paddy Pimblett, so maybe that is a fight that we are definitely going to see next from Manuel Torres. Did a great job tonight. Next we got Jasmine Yarigwe versus Sam Hughes. Jasmine Jarigwe was doing a great job picking apart Sam Hughes, who was looking to grapple the entire night. Sam Hughes was looking for takedowns, but unfortunately, she just wasn't able to get any. And Jasmine Jarigwe just did her thing with the striking. Daniel Zellhuber versus Francisco Prado was a very interesting fight. I expected, and honestly, like, I'm just being for real, I thought that they were going to end the fight in the third round when the doctor came in. Francisco Prado's face was absolutely wrecked. Absolutely wrecked. I thought that they were going to end the fight. Uh, but shout out to Francisco Prado, heart of a lion, heart of a warrior, stayed in there and finished the round and finished the fight. But completely dominant performance by Daniel Zellhuber. Hopefully, we see this guy get a step up in competition as well. Overall, I think the event was pretty entertaining. Of course, the crowd favorites didn't win the co-main or the main event, which came as a huge surprise to me. But overall, I still think that it was a pretty good card. It had a lot of great fights, a lot of entertaining fights, and a lot of fighters out there who are definitely prospects in their divisions, who most likely are going to get a step up in competition. And hopefully we do see them active in the UFC sometime soon. Of course, we need to see Brian Ortega hopefully fight Ilia Topuria soon. And maybe, Brandon Royval gets another shot at Pantoja. Very disappointing to see Yair Rodriguez lose the way he did, because I feel like a lot of people were pulling for him to win this fight, because I feel like a lot of people wanted to see, Mexico versus Spain. I think that would have been a very interesting matchup. And of course, Brandon Moreno losing to Brandon Royval is the biggest surprise here, given the fact that Brandon Moreno was, a champion for some point in time in his division. I think a lot of people were expecting him to win. Losing to Brandon Royval honestly really did come as a surprise, if I'm being completely freaking honest. But yeah, like I said, this event was extremely entertaining. Let me know your thoughts down in the comment section below. As always, it's a pleasure talking to each and every single one of you guys. Peace out. Have a good one.